Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today with us. My name is Gabriel Paun. I'm a Romanian biologist working hard in my home country to preserve the last old growth and primary forests. I'm also working to end trophy hunting of all kinds of animals. And at the same time, I'm working globally to end the live export of farmed animals. I have started to be worried about the situation of Romanian forests already 20 years ago, when I saw that the type of forestry management is turning into a very intensive, aggressive, and chaotic matter, which was the opposite of the forestry model Romania has to apply in the past. And for 10 years, we tried basically to cooperate with the authorities to hoping that they will do the right thing. And about 10 years ago, we have completely changed our strategy because we realized on that the Romanian state itself, the government and the parliament and all the regulating bodies and the control bodies are actually part of the problem and not part of the solution. We have at the same time been exposing the organized crime structure in this field and attacking large corporations that are really responsible of a big part of of the drama of the ongoing massacre from the Romanian forests. This continuous work without mercy for any political party or any corporation, regardless of how big they are, triggered a little bit of a change. Legislation has become a little bit more strict. There is a bit more transparency and traceability. We have designed together with other NGOs and forestry experts and some fine people who were at that time in the government, the Ministry of Environment, a system called Forest Inspector. This is giving people the power to check a wood transport on streets based on the given license plate of that truck or car. To check if it's legal or not, and to see even the route and the destination and the place of departure of that truck. So there is a certain type of transparency and traceability. But this doesn't mean that the logging is sustainable. In most cases, it is not. It's still being very destructive. And we want to change the forestry laws to take out of legality clear cuts and other forms of very aggressive logging that they call in Romania progressive, which is basically meaning complete removal of forest cover step by step. And at the moment, we still have like 8% of all forests, potentially primary and old growth. But only 1% of the surface of the country is yet strictly protected. And even the fact that we are a member of the European Union doesn't help so much anymore, because this organized crime structure always finds a way to cheat the European Commission. Imagine that 23% of Romania is European protected, part of the Natura 2000 network, but actually only 1% of those Natura 2000 sites is strictly protected. Everything else can be plot by plot, clear cut. Let's say that investigating, regardless if you're an NGO person or an investigative journalist or a forest ranger, is extremely dangerous in Romania. It was deadly many times, and there were several murder attempts against me personally. I was always lucky to stay alive, but not always lucky to stay in one piece. I have a lot of broken bones in my body for the simple taking of a picture or filming ongoing forest crimes. So I realized that actually, if they go so hard against those who wants to protect forest, it means that the biggest fear of the forest mafia is actually that the truth might come to light, and they would do everything in their power to prevent that from happening. Because once it's public, uh, something must happen. The authorities have to do at least a little bit of their job, and the justice has to uh, function. Actually, justice is the only thing which is partially functioning. I mean, on one hand, those who have attacked me, have been filmed. We know their faces, their identity, and they are still free. The prosecution is still ongoing 6.5 years later after one of the most horrible attacks which happened against me. But at the same time, when we bring evidence of wrongdoings in the forests, the justice is doing its job. My organization, Agent Green, is carrying at the moment over 200 trials against different institutions from Romania, against Ministry of Environment, against the National Agency for Environmental Protection, against forest guards, and against Romsilva, which is the state forest manager. So you see, it's a very awkward situation. The biggest enemy of the forest is the Romanian state itself. We have to go to court with them, and we are winning. And the only primary and old-growth forest which have been strictly preserved by now is simply because we win these trials. I mean, just the other week we won a gigantic trial against Ministry of Environment and Romsilva and Agency for Environmental Protection, and we have completely suspended logging on 20,000 hectares. It happened the same in another part of Romania, so it was in the Romanian region called Moldavia. Then we have been winning trials in Transylvania, in Wallachia, in Banat, in southwest of Romania, in some national parks. You'd be surprised, but in Romania, even in national parks, there is logging, where normally international standards set by IUCN, which are valid all the way from Austria to Australia, from Sweden to South Africa, from Argentina to Mongolia. A national park is a national park. It's the highest level of protection that you can give to a protected area, which means no intervention, no logging. In Romania, half of the national parks are being cut as we speak. And this is also something that we are pushing in Romania, along with protection of the last old growth and primary forest. We are pushing for strict protection of the existing 13 national parks in Romania, plus establishing 5 new ones. I'm aware this is a long race to go, but I'm confident that in time we will achieve that, because if there is no change in political thinking right now, there is a change in the mentality of Romanian people, and there are more and more people of all ages being on our side and asking and pressuring politicians to do the right thing and don't just think about the economical benefits from cutting the wood, but also from all the other services which forest ecosystems are delivering: protection of water sources, of clean air, of the soil, recreation, ecotourism, protection of infrastructure of national security like roads, railways, and of course, last but not least, climate protection and biodiversity protection. And these are things which are completely out of the question for the authorities right now, but it's the things we are pushing to change the mentality of the authorities. I think there have been some very bad mistakes done some 15, 20 years ago without proper strategic assessment, environmental assessment, and adequate assessment, Romania has allowed a lot of corporations from Turkey, from Austria, from Switzerland, from Scandinavia, and even from Spain and United States to develop processing capacities in Romania that are way above the capacity of Romanian forests to produce wood. And it's now very difficult to step back and tell them to shut down their businesses. Some of them simply don't have enough wood, and they have to import wood to satisfy their needs because there is simply not enough wood in Romania anymore. 81% of the forests are too young to be cut. They are they are former old-growth forests turned into bushes now, and in some of them, because of climate change, the forest is not recovering anymore. It's simply turning into a desert, like the Highlands in Scotland. It's terrible. It's wasted land, and that's a big threat that we are facing right now. And simply, there is too much cutting. There is too much cutting, and Romania has to review its policy on the maximum cutting allowance. Because if you look at the numbers, legally you can cut 18 million cubic meters a year. But in reality, every year we are missing 38 million cubic meter, which means 20 is above sustainability and legality. And half of these 38 million cubic meters, or even more than half, 23 million, according to statistics, is just firewood for households, which still depends on heating up their water and rooms from wood. But then all the other industry needs the other 15 million cubic meters. So there is a really, really big demand of wood, and this is not sustainable. Something has to change in terms of how we are warming our houses, producing energy, producing furniture, producing all the timber. And why in the world do we have to use such a tiny country to export wood in so many countries? I mean, there's Austrian companies present in Romania exporting wood to 100 countries around the world. We also have IKEA in Romania, if you can believe. Around 7% of all furniture in the world produced by and sold by IKEA is coming from Romanian wood. Actually, they went a step further, and they started, besides all the wood coming from different forests around the country and being turned into furniture by different factories that have an exclusive contract for IKEA, IKEA has become a forest owner in Romania. There was nothing to prevent them from buying large surface of forests, and now they are the biggest private owner of forests in Romania. And we have been curious how do they manage their forests, because they present themselves as the most green company in the world. And we wanted to see if this is true, because they claim they know personally every single tree. And we were shocked that in several locations we have found ongoing massacre. They are doing clear cuts, causing landslides. They are cutting old growth and primary forest as a matter of urgency, with the argument of renewing the forest to make them young again. And I think this is the wrong attitude, and it's also against the European biodiversity strategy, which is calling all European member states, including Romania and Austria, that if they still have old growth and primary forests, they should be strictly preserved. And there will be money for compensations for putting those forests to rest instead of cutting them. So I don't understand why a corporation which presents itself as green is actually one of the worst I have ever met in terms of policies and practices. I see a lot of solutions to all these problems. First of all, I think we have to put a moratorium on everything that is still primary and old growth forests. So all those 8% of the primary and old-growth forests should be put to spare, to really keep them as a carbon sink reservoir for biodiversity, clean air, clean water, a stable soil, and so on. For the rest of the forest, I think we have to completely change the forestry management style. We have to return to what Romania was doing in the 19th century with very careful logging, especially in the context of climate change. Just we don't have to cut everywhere. There are places with steep mountains where it's extremely dangerous to cut, and the growth is slower, and the forest recovery is taking so slow. So just leave those mountains in peace and expand the current forest cover of Romania, which is way below the European average and what scientists are recommending. So currently only 29% of Romania is covered with forests, and 71 has been is actually without any kind of forest. Just to have an impression, before humans, this land, which is now called Romania, was 90% forests. So it's us humans who went down to make it down to 29. Scientists say that the minimum acceptable should be 40%. So Romania has to increase, especially in the flat areas, the forest cover, because they have been completely removed. There are many places, most of the places in Romania, you go, you look around 360, and there is not a single tree, and you can never hear a bird singing. And this is happening mostly along the Danube River, which is such a beautiful river up there in Germany and in Austria. And once you reach Romania, the forests are gone. So we need to increase the forest cover urgently. I think Romania can spend plenty of the money from the recovery and resilience funds from European Commission to increase the forest cover. At the same time, I think we need to enrich the landscape, those empty pastures with some trees. It's agroforestry measures which are encouraged by European institutions, and it's more beautiful and it's more ecological to have pastures with trees. We need forest cartons as well between agriculture lands and along infrastructure. And we basically need to create all those corridors and stepping stones for wildlife, because right now we have them all isolated in islands which are too far from each other to be connected. So we have to create connectivity between important ecosystems. So these are some of the measures that we suggest, and we have a plan which we are asking for the government to completely reform the forestry sector, its administration and management style. It's completely old-fashioned and not adapted to the 21st centuries. These are just a few of the solutions that we are offering